Welcome back, focused learners. Today we're diving into a really special explainer. We're exploring the absolute classic Shakespearean tale, As You Like It. Now, this specific version is adapted from Charles and Mary Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare, and it's actually prescribed for grade 12 West Bengal board learners. Shout out to J.E. Banerjee's prompt for inspiring this one. Whether you're studying this for your curriculum or you just, love a really great story, we're going to break down this whole complex web of exile, love, and return. We'll map out the entire chronological journey straight into the magical Forest of Arden so the plot is crystal clear for you.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First up, betrayal and banishment. Second, the unequal wrestling match. Third, friendship and clever disguises. Fourth, love, danger, and forgiveness. And finally, number 5, the joyous restoration.
Starting right off with Section 1, Betrayal and Banishment, a Kingdom Divided.
So to really understand how our characters end up where they do, we first have to look at a pretty massive family fracture. Our story kicks off in France, which, back then, was divided into these provinces or dukedoms. And right at the center of our drama is a usurper. That's a person who forcefully or illegally takes someone else's title or position. Basically, a younger brother overthrows the lawful duke, who, by the way, is his own older brother. This usurper completely deposes him and just kicks him right out of his own kingdom. So, the lawful duke, along with a few really faithful followers, is forced to leave all his wealth behind and retreat to the wild Forest of Arden.
And right away, this brilliantly illustrates a stark contrast between two entirely different worlds. On one hand, you've got life at court. It's dangerous, it's packed with jealousy, and honestly, just a lot of unkindness and ingratitude. But then, on the flip side, look at life in the Forest of Arden. Even though it's technically a place of exile, the banished duke and his men actually find it incredibly relaxing. It's almost like they're living like Robin Hood of England, resting under the shade of massive trees, watching the playful forest deer, and really just finding these profound, grounding lessons out in nature.
In fact, the banished duke actually embraces the freezing harshness of the winter there. Listen to this, he says, "These chilling winds which blow upon my body are true counselors. I find tongues in trees, books in the flowing streams, sermons in stones, and good in everything." I mean, isn't that just beautiful? He realizes that the biting, freezing cold wind is at least honest. It doesn't fake flatter him like those treacherous people back at court. He manages to draw these incredibly positive, humbling lessons right out of the harsh, natural world around him.
Moving on to Section 2, the unequal wrestling match. Courage against the odds.
So while the Duke is out roughing it in the forest, his daughter Rosalind has actually been allowed to stay behind at court. Why? Because she happens to be best friends with the usurping Duke's daughter, Celia. And it's right here at court where our major inciting incident happens. A wrestling match is announced, which, believe it or not, was a favorite sport of princes back then. But this isn't a fair fight. It's a completely unequal match between this brutal professional wrestler and a totally inexperienced youth named Orlando. So step 1, Rosalind and Celia are terrified for him. They literally beg the young man not to fight. But step 2, Orlando gracefully refuses to back down. He basically tells them he feels totally friendless in the world, and if he dies, well, nobody's going to miss him. Rosalind instantly feels this huge wave of pity for him, totally relating to that feeling of being alone. Then step 3, the match kicks off, and somehow, completely miraculously, Orlando defeats the professional. But here's where it goes wrong in step 4. The usurping Duke Frederick is absolutely enraged. The reason? He finds out Orlando is the son of Sir Roland de Boys, who was actually a dear friend to the banished Duke. Rosalind, though, is thrilled by the victory, and secretly gives Orlando a gold chain right off her neck.
That brings us to Section 3, Friendship and Clever Disguises. Escape to the forest.
Duke Frederick's anger doesn't stop with Orlando, though. He suddenly pivots and turns all that rage onto Rosalind. He's jealous that the people praise her and pity her, so he irrevocably banishes her from the court too. But here's where we see Celia's incredible loyalty. There is no way she's letting her best friend be banished alone, so they make a pact to flee together. Now, obviously, it's super dangerous for two wealthy young ladies to travel alone, so they have to change their appearance. So the crucial point here is the disguises. Rosalind, since she's a bit taller, dresses up as a tall country lad and takes on the male name Ganymede. Celia dresses as a country lass, a village maiden, and goes by Alina. Disguised like this, Ganymede and Alina manage to travel safely all the way to the Forest of Arden, where they actually pool their money and buy a sheep farm. Make sure you remember these fake names, because Ganymede is actually Rosalind and Alina is really Celia.
Meanwhile, back at home, Orlando is in some serious danger himself. His cruel older brother, Oliver, hates him so much that he's actually plotting to burn Orlando alive in his sleep. I know, it's intense. But an old, incredibly faithful servant named Adam overhears the whole plot. 500. That is the number of crowns Adam hands over to Orlando. It is literally his entire life savings, and he gives it all to help Orlando escape, just begging to come along as his servant. It's such a striking, powerful moment of pure loyalty, especially compared to the awful family betrayal we just saw. Let's move to Section 4 to see how this builds. Love, danger, and forgiveness. Reunions in Arden.
So, Orlando and Adam travel for days until they finally hit the Forest of Arden. They are absolutely starving, so Orlando actually draws his sword on a group of men eating dinner, demanding food. But instead of a fight, he's met with just this incredible kindness from the banished Duke, who warmly welcomes and feeds them. And right about now is when things get really fun. Orlando is head over heels in love with Rosalind, but he has zero idea she is hiding out in the exact same forest. He's literally spending his days carving love poems for her into the tree bark. Well, Rosalind, who is currently walking around disguised as the country boy Ganymede, finds these poems. She bumps into Orlando and recognizes him immediately, mostly because he's wearing her gold chain. But Orlando, he totally doesn't recognize her. In this brilliant twist of dramatic irony, the boy Ganymede tells Orlando that his love sickness can be cured. The treatment? Orlando has to come to their cottage every single day and pretend that Ganymede is Rosalind, wooing him to get the romance out of his system. And of course, behind the disguise, Rosalind is just secretly thrilled to hear him declare how much he loves her day after day.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how true forgiveness unfolds. Out of nowhere, Orlando's evil older brother, Oliver, wanders into the forest. Let's trace how this goes down. First, Oliver is dead asleep on the ground, and there's a venomous snake twisted right near his neck. As Orlando walks up, the snake glides away. Second, Orlando spots a hungry lioness hiding in the bushes, just waiting for Oliver to wake up. Third, Orlando is faced with a huge life-or-death choice. Does he leave the brother who literally tried to murder him, or does he risk his own life to save him? Well, brotherly affection wins out. Orlando fights the lioness and saves Oliver, though his own arm gets badly torn up by claws in the process. Finally, step 4. Oliver wakes up, sees his younger brother bleeding to save his life, and is just hit with overwhelming remorse. He genuinely repents for all the horrible things he's done.
And that brings us to our final act, Section 5, the joyous restoration, magic, marriages, and miracles. So a completely changed Oliver heads over to the shepherd's cottage to apologize for Orlando missing his daily wooing appointment. While he's there, Oliver and Alina, who, remember, is actually Celia in disguise, fall in love at first sight. His sincere sorrow completely wins her over, and they decide to get married the very next day. When Orlando hears this, he's heartbroken, wishing he could marry his beloved Rosalind right then too. While Ganymede promises that by using a special magic he learned from his uncle, he'll bring the real Rosalind to the wedding. Which leads us to the grand climax. Step 1. At the wedding, standing in front of the banished Duke and an anxious Orlando, the two disguised sisters step away, drop the act, and finally reveal their true identities. The Duke actually weeps with joy to have his daughter back. Step 2. Joyous marriages happen right there in the woods. Orlando marries Rosalind, and Oliver marries Celia. Then, step 3. Right in the middle of the wedding feast, a messenger bursts in with some crazy news. The usurper had actually marched a massive army toward the forest to wipe out his brother once and for all. But right at the edge of the woods, he met an old hermit. This peaceful conversation entirely changed his heart, and he genuinely repented on the spot. Which leads to step 4. The usurper decides to step down and live a quiet religious life. That means the dukedom, all the lands, and the revenues are completely and peacefully restored to their lawful owner, the banished duke.
It is a remarkably happy ending, for sure, but it leaves us with something really profound to chew on. Does true change happen through the force and power of a court, or does it happen through the peace and humbling lessons we find in nature? Just think about how the forest transformed the banished duke, Oliver, and eventually even the usurper. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in today's Explainer. I really hope the structured journey through the Forest of Arden made this classic Shakespeare tale crystal clear, and maybe even sparked a little curiosity about the incredible power of forgiveness and the natural world. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.